Hello and welcome back to the channel. Earlier this week, a trailer was released for DLC 1 for CoD WWII, which was showing off gameplay for the maps included in DLC, and currently there are 5 maps being released for the DLC, which sounds more than usual. However, 3 of them are multiplayer maps, 1's a war map, and 1 is a zombies map. So I'm going to talk about this DLC, but I'm also going to talk about some links to a previous video I've made. It's like a follow-up to a previous video I've made and that sort of thing. So a few weeks ago I made a video talking about CoD content from Call of Duty World War II, and all the information in the video was taken from a Reddit post which I linked in the description, which I should do in this video as well. The main thing I want to talk about here are the guns that I talked about and the maps that I talked about as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is the guns. So this guy went into the game files of Call of Duty World War II on PC, I believe, and found all of the guns which were supposed to be DLC guns for this game, released over the entirety of this following year, 2018. He also found 3 multiplayer maps which were cut from the game before launch but were on the disc, and they weren't all completed, and they were in various states of completion and development, that sort of thing. But these guns weren't complete. They were just either images for them, and Sledgehammer might have had the completed versions already made but just not on the disc and in the game, or they were actually not even finished but they just had images of them so as they knew what they were going to develop or something along those lines. I don't know. But 3 of the guns, I read out a list of guns, and there's a list of guns in that Reddit post, which you should probably look at in the description, follow along. But 3 of the guns were the Sten, GPMG and the Gewehr 43, and I think the ice pick was in it as well, but not the trench knife. And of course these 4 weapons, well, including the trench knife I suppose, were released at the start of the Winter Siege update and event in early December, kind of mid-December, that sort of time. So I'm sure you know about this, but I haven't really talked about it on the channel. Usually what I do for DLC weapons is I do a review of them after I played with them for long enough, but the way they did DLC weapons in this game means that even if you have the season pass, you don't get the base versions. You have to do challenges or get them from supply drops or buy them with armory credits. So it's taken me like a good few weeks to actually get the weapons, but to be fair, I haven't played the game that much. Anyway, that's besides the point. Basically what I'm saying here is that the Reddit post is pretty trustworthy here, because 4 of the weapons at least have already been added into the game from this list, and that would lead me to believe that the rest of the weapons will also be added in during the game's life cycle, but maybe not all of them, because Sledgehammer can change their minds and stuff. But the main topic of this video that I want to discuss is the fact that the 3 multiplayer maps in that Reddit post, which I believe is the Resistance remake, which I can't actually remember the name of in the Reddit post. There's also Wolf's Lair and then Castle, I think that's what it's called. And basically in the DLC 1 trailer that they released earlier this week, they had Occupation, which is a Resistance remake from Modern Warfare 3, they had Valkyrie and they had Anthropoid. So it would appear as though the Resistance remake's the exact same map as in the CoD content Reddit post, only it's called Occupation DLC 1. There is Valkyrie, which is MP_Wolf's Lair in the Reddit post, and Anthropoid, which seems to be MP_Castle. From the Reddit post, the image linked to that map is a picture of a castle. This map does have a castle-y area in it, but it could be a different map, so I'm not actually sure, but I'm just going to go along with the idea that this is the map. So what it would appear Sledgehammer has done is that they were developing 3 maps before the game was released, and some of them made it onto disc but they aren't playable. So what I'm thinking is that Sledgehammer were going to have these maps in the game, but they either ran out of time or they just decided, no, we're going to put them in DLC 1 because that makes us more money and it's less work. From Sledgehammer's point of view, and from the point of view of an outsider, you would probably think this game has 13 maps for multiplayer, considering the fact there are 9 base maps, there is Quarantine, which is a season pass bonus, and there is also 3 war maps. However, the argument people have been making on Reddit and Twitter and everything is that there is actually only 9 plus 1 multiplayer maps, because Quarantine isn't actually available to everyone apart from during this Winter Siege event. It probably will be eventually, but you never know. But basically there's 9 maps as base maps in the game, which is it's the least we've ever seen in a Call of Duty game from what I understand. And then there's 3 war maps and Quarantine, which people have been saying war maps aren't actual multiplayer maps because it's a completely different game mode, which these maps aren't actually in TDM or Domination or anything. Which means that at any one time you can only have a maximum 9 or 10 maps in a game mode playlist, or 3 if you're playing War, which people have basically been saying that, oh yeah, there's only 10 multiplayer maps because not everyone plays War and that sort of thing, so it's not actually a multiplayer map, or else it is a multiplayer game mode, it isn't actually a traditional Call of Duty map. So that's what kind of people are talking about, which I can understand. If Sledgehammer made all of the maps in the game, I would say fair enough. They've done more work than what you would usually have to do for a Call of Duty game for multiplayer maps, because war is basically double or 3 times the size of a normal multiplayer map. Therefore, I can kind of see the side of, oh yeah, they've done enough work. Not having the DLC 1 maps in the game from launch is fair enough. But the fact that, well, from what I understand, Raven Software actually made the war maps, which I've talked about before, I think, in that content video, but I'm just reiterating that Sledgehammer could easily have had these 3 DLC 1 maps in the game, because obviously they were developing them and they were somewhat close to completion, apart from maybe the castle map, which is Anthropoid in DLC 1. So, the fact that Sledgehammer Games made 10 multiplayer maps, put 1 behind a paywall, and then Raven also made 3 war maps, kind of makes me think Sledgehammer doesn't really understand how to do this properly, because they easily could have had DLC 1 in the game if they had put in a bit more work, which I'm sure, I don't know everything that goes in the game design and game development and everything, but I would say that having 9 maps for multiplayer and then putting an extra 1 behind a paywall is just unacceptable, because with 13 maps or 12 or 13 maps in a Call of Duty, the game can get stale with that many maps. So reducing the amount of maps in a single playlist is just a bad idea all around. So what I'm trying to say here, and I want to keep this video kind of short and I've already kind of ranted for a while, is that the maps for DLC 1 were already in the game in some way, shape or form. It was already on the disc from day 1, and they could have had them in the game from launch if they either had to put in a bit more work, or maybe the maps were completed and we're seeing a very early stage of them on the actual disc. But they could have had them in the game, and they really should have, considering the fact that they've actually put in less work for multiplayer maps than what other devs have done and what they've done in the past. So that's the topic of this video finished with, basically. I am going to go on a wee mini rant here because I've been quite annoyed at the game for quite a while now, and I haven't really made a video on it or anything, so I kind of just want to talk about it for a wee while at the end of this video. So if that's all you're interested in the video, you can click off. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. But what I'm going to talk about now is how bad the game is. I'm not talking about the usual hate of a new game when it releases or when a new Call of Duty game releases or something like that. I'm not talking about that sort of thing. I'm talking about how the game is actually genuinely bad. And now, you can enjoy the game. I'm not saying that it's bad to the point at which you can't enjoy it, because it is possible to enjoy the game, and I've enjoyed it at parts as well and at points. But there are things in the game which just doesn't make any sense, which is such as the abundance of glitches in the actual game. A part of me can't actually understand how they removed 3 multiplayer maps from the game, which I've just talked about, but yet the game at launch was already a mess of just glitches, and the game was literally broken. They had to turn off the servers and basically reboot them over a course of a week or more so, just to get the servers to work, which to me that's ridiculous for a AAA game. And this is the argument I have. This is the point I have, which is this is a AAA game which has had a lot of funding and stuff, and it's a big budget game, and it's not like Sledgehammer's a small company or anything. This is Call of Duty, and yet they made this game with a bunch of glitches. If this was like an indie game or something, I could understand, but there are indie games better made than Call of Duty World War II, which is ridiculous. At this point, now, something that I hated about Infinite Warfare was the fact that people hated the game to the point at which they didn't have anything left to hate it on, so they went back to, oh, the game launched with no leaderboards or no combat record or no emblem editor, and they just kept talking about that 6 months down the line when that stuff was already in the game. But they held on to that for dear life because they didn't know what else they hated for. So I'm not going to keep talking about the fact that it was broken at launch, because they fixed all of the issues. But one issue that remains from launch is the fact that at the start of the game you can be spectating for well over a minute, which is, in very extreme situations, you can be spectating for over a minute, as happened to me, where you can't spawn in. You can select your class, you can change your class, and you can leave the game and stuff, but you cannot spawn in until the game decides, oh yeah, we're going to let you spawn in now. It can be anywhere from a couple minutes, or it can be anywhere from a few seconds to like a minute or two, which is ridiculous, because it can be something as simple as delaying you for a couple seconds can mean you don't cap the first flag in domination, or spawning you in half a minute later can mean that you don't get the opening rush and the map flow's messed up for you because you don't actually know where everyone is. It's that sort of thing. And they haven't fixed this yet, which I don't understand how they haven't. Another point is that The Winter Siege event is terrible. You can make the argument of, oh yeah, they added in new weapons and it's a really good way they've implemented them because everyone can get them. I understand that's a good way to implement them, and I'm happy about that Sledgehammer went about that way to actually add in new weapons, because it means that you have something to work towards, and it's not that they're just locked behind supply drops. It's kind of the same system that Infinite Warfare went for, where you have challenges to unlock each of the weapons, which is like complete 50 matches for the guns and 30 for the melee weapons, which is a pretty good system because it means that you will eventually get them, and it's not that difficult to get them. And that's not the only way to get them. You can get them via winter supply drops for the winter event, and you can also buy them with armory credits, which is fair enough. Like, that's a good point of the game. That's a good thing that Sledgehammer did. But the fact is that they added in over 200 items, I think, for the Winter Siege update or for this event, and you can only get these items from winter supply drops or winter bribes. They also went to the extent that winter supply drops do not give you the protected items. In fact, it's basically a rare supply drop which has one item guaranteed to be a winter item, and it's not even dupe protected. The only thing dupe protected about this event is the bribe, which gives you 3 items which you don't have from Winter Siege loot pool, which to me, like, this is ridiculous, because this doesn't mean the game's broken or anything. This is them trying to get people to buy supply drops, but from my point of view this doesn't even work, because surely if you open up like 20 or 30 of these supply drops by earning them, you would see that, oh yeah, I'm just getting duplicates over and over again, why would I want to go buy supply drops to get more duplicates from this event? A better mindset to get them more money as well would be just to make the supply drops dupe protected. So is the Winter Siege item in it at least is dupe protected, because that would mean that if you did open like 100 supply drops, you'd basically be guaranteed to get one. So I really don't understand why they didn't just do that. But anyway, that's kind of just tailed on to the end of the video. I am done now. I've had my wee rant. The gist of it is that they had 3 DLC 1 maps on the disc from launch in various states of completion, and they probably could have had them in the final game if they really tried, but they didn't because they kind of thought, oh yeah, we've done enough work anyway, when they really hadn't. They launched the game with loads of bugs and glitches and stuff, and the game was it was really incomplete and really a broken mess at launch, and still is, and yet they had to cut 3 multiplayer maps from the game just to get it shipped. And yeah, that's basically it. So, and the Winter Siege event is shambles and terrible. Anyway, that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, maybe even subscribing, and see you next one. Bye.